Hi, everybody. Tommy here from Queers and Soaps. I just wanted to introduce you to some friends of mine who are about to embark on some fun soap opera discussion. So tune in and enjoy, and I will see you soon.
So I'm Eric, that's Bevan, and
Hi.
we are going to do the next three episodes to finish off Dallas season one. So let Tommy roll the credits and we'll get into that. All right. So, I have a couple of fun facts that I investigated during the show. I saw that Dallas was originally supposed to be called Houston. Apparently, Houston was more known for oil than Dallas was. Dallas was known for banking. I don't know. I guess they decided like Dallas sounds better. I
I
don't
mean,
know what the situation
it does
was.
a little bit. It does a little bit. Like, I suppose,
I
though,
think so.
after a while, Houston probably would have taken the gravitas as Dallas did. It's all about the name and the fact that we know
Yeah,
Dallas as what it is.
yeah. Well, I know Houston's the capital or is Dallas? I forget. Houston, Texas, Dallas, Texas. Dallas, I think. I'm not sure.
Is it? I don't know.
I don't
Um,
know.
I
I know both
I
of
don't know.
them well. So,
All I know is
but
that
anyway,
Houston, Dallas, and Austin are all places I want to go.
you'll get there one day. You'll get there one day.
Yeah, I pay for that
Um,
passport.
Also, it's funny that we're watching this episode because Tina Louise as Julie. Are you
Yeah,
familiar
yeah.
with her? She was on Gilligan's Island. Her birthday just passed. She just turned 90 years old, February
You know,
11th.
I actually only just realized that she was on Gilligan's Island. I didn't know that. As soon as she said it, I was like, holy shit.
I didn't know you knew Ginger from Gilligan's Island. I didn't know. I don't know what you have
Well,
down there or what you don't.
no, like we definitely have had Gilligan's Island. And as soon as you said that she was on it, I knew exactly who she was. And I just have never connected
That's
the
funny.
dots. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I love Julie. I mean,
and I know I do too. I really, she has such good chemistry with the cast. Like, I wonder if she just didn't want to like a regular series because I'm sure it was a lot of work and maybe she just didn't want to. I don't know, but
they're
I
probably
love her
playing a
part,
little bit
man.
on her TV star power as well, because like she was already known for Gilligan's Island and like the role is like very different to Ginger. So
Oh, for sure. I'm just curious to know how that went. Like, I wonder if they're like well, I know they asked her back. Obviously, she does reappear three more times, I think, in season two. But yeah, but I don't know. I just feel like they should have tried to keep her somehow.
mm,
Anyway, so we'll go on. We have three episodes to cover. So episode three is called "Spy in the House,"
yep.
and yeah, this was a fun one. Um, Go ahead. It looks like you have something to say.
It just that I guess this is the one where you sort of really start to see the sort of establishment of like a lot of the power dynamics that play into the stories as the series goes on, particularly like it's sort of I found that it just sort of gives a bit more exposition on like the Barnes Ewing feud, or at least colors it in action essentially, because like it's the first time Cliff sort of we see Cliff properly sort of start to sort of gun for
Right, right,
the
right.
Ewing. Yeah, the Ewing. Beg your pardon?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, we'll get into that. We'll get into that. So hold that thought. So we have they're doing construction at Ewing. Did you catch why they're doing? I guess I don't know because Bobby's there. Are they redoing offices? I don't know what's happening.
I mean, yeah, I think it's just I think it was just something along those lines.
They're just like, okay, we're redoing. So Bobby takes the red file home. Or is it the red file or is it just the Ed file? I think it's just Ed
No,
file,
it's
right?
Bill Orlock's personal files. So
It's
they
personal
sort of
files.
I think they sort of mention the red file, like you sort of hear briefly
Yeah,
about it,
they
but they
mention
don't
it.
they don't properly start sort of alluding to it more until season two. But establishment, that's what I was saying earlier. I think this episode particularly is a big, good establisher episode, especially for stuff that they,
Right.
flesh out later.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So they're doing the construction at the office. Bobby can't concentrate on working or whatever, so he does take the file home for that reason. Maybe that's why they were doing the construction for him to be able to take the file home for this
Yeah, plot
situation to happen.
convenience.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so Bobby and Julie leave and they're walking and talking together, and even they have like good chemistry as like friends, like because I guess she's been a friend of the family for years, worked at the Ewing Company for years.
Yeah, well, she would have
Um,
known Bobby as like a probably like a late teen, like very early 20s sort of young man, and probably earlier.
yeah, and they mentioned that JR should have married her, so I guess that's how close they were. Why he didn't, I really don't understand. Um, I
I
get
think
his
it's just that
situation.
I think it's just
Yeah,
that old-timey thing of like Sue Ellen came from better background. Like, like it's not that, and like Sue Ellen, I mean, Miss Dallas, like she's very much like the image of like the perfect sort of wife that you're supposed to want.
that you're supposed to want. But Julie, like, I don't know what her background was, and I don't know if we ever really find out. So it's not like she was a hooker or anything.
No, but like it's just I don't think it's so much that because even the family kind of likes Julie. I just think somewhere along the line it's probably just one of JR's like hang-ups about impressing his family, which is freaking
Yeah,
plain from the first episode. Like,
right, right.
yeah, maybe. I mean,
And what?
it's hard to sort of look back a little bit because this is 1978, like even like it was just things are a little bit different then. So it is kind of
For
hard
sure.
to sort of probably pick up properly of something that other people of the time probably just knew,
Yeah, yeah.
or would understand, I guess, a bit more inherently. I mean, I wasn't born in 1978, so I don't know. What was
Unfortunately,
it
I
like in the
was.
before times? No. It's
Yeah.
terrible.
Well, I was born then, but it doesn't mean I know anything from 1978. I know
Well,
that
yeah, like,
Superman was one of the top
yeah.
movies.
It's like saying I was an 80s baby when it was 88. I'm like, okay.
Right. So we have Jock and Bill, our friends. Bill is the senator or whatever, or he has a seat on the Senate board, and they're talking
Yeah,
about
yeah.
Cliff and all that stuff. Bobby and Pam are cute together. They have like a cute little moment. He drops the file behind the sofa. Then we all know something's going to happen with that file. Either somebody's going to get in trouble for not having it, or something's going to happen.
Well, the
Um,
giant zoom and focus from the camera kind of was like, oh,
right, right.
foreshadowing.
Oh, and we got Miss Ellie and Sue Ellen. They get home. They seem to have a good like rapport. Um, so Bobby and Pam, so they went to their house.
Yep.
Did you catch that? They went to their house that I don't think is in season two. They went to their
No,
house.
no, they
In
just have a
season two,
room
I
in
think
season two.
they just have their room in season two.
Yeah.
We're supposed to which is funny, so funny to me because I feel like Dallas was so good with continuity with recurring characters and stuff. For some reason, this house thing, just I guess they just wanted them together in one house. Just cracks me up because they were so good with everything else.
Yeah.
Um, Sue Ellen bought a negligee, and uh, JR comes home and he's like, uh, yeah, you're not gonna wear that, right? And I'm like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah, I actually felt really bad for Sue Ellen because she does
Oh
this
my
like
God,
little
yes.
neat thing where she like looks at it and she just sort of like all hopeful, and then he just comes out, he's like, "Oh, I think it's trashy," and I'm just like, "Oh,
Yeah, he thinks it's trashy, like, and he's like, yeah, like, I'm like, dude, what do you want? Like, what do you want? And like a night, like a what is it, like a muumuu, like the Miss Ellie dresses, or what do you want her in? Like,
I
and
mean, like,
clearly she doesn't get laid regularly, which she's upset
no,
about.
no."
So she's trying to do things to like help herself get laid, or and to get an heir. She wants a child, and
Hmm.
stuff. Not working for her.
Yeah, and it's sort of like a contrast because I find that especially in this episode, quite a lot of the scenes. So we'll see like stuff play out with like Sue Ellen and JR, but it's always in a contrast to something else. So like JR argues with Sue Ellen here over this, like it causes an argument because she's like, oh, we don't make love anymore, and he's like, oh, and he just doesn't even want to talk about it. And he goes and he talks to
Yeah,
Julie, who we hear earlier from Bobby, obviously has a close relationship, and they sort of, imply it a bit in the first episode.
right.
And then you see, and then there's again another contrast when you see like Pam and
So wait,
Bobby. Yeah,
focus on
Bobby
the
goes
Julie stuff.
home.
Focus on the Julie stuff. So we went and talked to Julie,
Yeah.
and then what happened with her?
So Like it's the so basically he's able to just kind of open up more. He sits there and he sort of
Right.
talks a little bit more about like what he actually wants and stuff. And poor old Julie, you can tell that she's kind of attempting to sort of put like a line there between them.
Back
She's like,
them
no,
up.
you should, yeah, she's like, you should go home to your wife, you know, why don't you go talk
Hmm.
to her, or why don't you do this?
And then of course she gives in to him, and they bang.
Yeah.
And then
And the big dramatic old timey kissing where he's like, I need you. And she's like, no, I need to get over you.
true, right? And then
Yeah.
yeah, so they bang. They wake up the next day, throws $100 bill at her. You know what's gonna happen with that?
Well, it's like, you know, after the conversation about her birthday, because he had forgotten, and then the next moment he gives her money, and it's just all very like, yeah, I can understand why she'd be pissed off there.
Right. Yeah, and he's upset about himself for not. And to him, he's like, he's giving her money because like it was her birthday, and I guess he felt bad. But it doesn't look good. It looks
No,
like
well,
she was a whore for the night, and she got paid for it.
she
So
just
she
asked
called.
him if he wanted to stay for breakfast, and she had talked about how
Right.
like, oh, you know, I always eat
You're
breakfast in the
never
mornings
there.
alone, and like all that sort of thing, and then he just
I know.
and then seals it
I
with
really, I really feel
like a
for
couple of,
her.
yeah, I felt bad
And
for her too. I was like,
as soon as he leaves, her ass is calling Cliff. Beep. She's pissed,
yes,
and
definitely.
she wants to get some kind of revenge already. Not like she doesn't want to do anything like terrible, but she just wants a little bit of something. So she's just like, Cliff, let's go out. Dinner's
Well,
on me. She got that $100 bill.
yeah, exactly. And so like at this
whatever,
point
whatever
too, they've
five, whatever $5 steak you want tonight.
yeah,
Because back
and
then
at
I'm
this
sure
point
it was
too,
way cheaper.
yeah, well, it would have been. But like at this point too, they've already sort of established a little bit earlier in the episode that Cliff is kind of poking around and looking into Jock's. Yeah, I think he's just no, he has a Senate chair. I'm pretty sure, or something like that. He's a senator.
Something like that.
Um, looking into like their dealings and stuff, and it's all like, oh, he can't find anything, yada yada yada. But yeah, and
Right.
so
And
obviously Julie plays on that because she already knows Cliff's looking. So
yeah, Julie and him, I think, met up a little bit before that. And he's like, one day I'm going to get you, and I'll get you drunk and poke and prod. And they just have like a good little cute rapport. Like, she knows she's
it's like,
probably
I'm
not
gonna
going to say
use you, and she's
anything.
like, yeah, sure.
Right. But they don't ever, she didn't ever plan on like hanging out with him
Yeah,
probably. But it was like I said, like this woman has like doesn't she like in every scene? I feel like first of all, Tina Louise is stealing these scenes. Number one, I feel like she's very she's good in these in this episode especially.
yeah.
And she has really good chemistry with everybody. Sad to see her go after this for a little bit, but
Well, it's just because the episodes are far more self-contained at the moment,
yeah,
anyway. So I think they just had to tell like a whole story, more or less, like trying to tell a whole story rather than building it up as obviously as shows tend to do later on. So
yeah. They didn't know, I guess, it was going to be a huge hit eventually because I know it wasn't the first season. It wasn't a huge hit.
yeah, yeah, no.
Um, So, yeah, so where are we at here in the episode? So the Orloff business stuff. I don't know exactly what's going on. I think he got paid off by the Ewings. Is that
So
right?
basically, from what I can gather, the big main one is like obviously they had deals and stuff, but the big main one was that the Ewings had loaned him something like 50, 60 grand or something like that to pay off his
Yes,
house, and he hadn't
yes.
repaid any of it since then, and had also voted in voted basically against Cliff or with the Ewing interest every
With
time
the Ewing.
he's
So
had
it
a
looked
chance
like
to.
he was bribed, basically,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah,
So that's what's in the file. Julie gives it to Cliff. Um, and then he goes crazy with it. He's like tells everybody and their mother. He tells the news.
as
The
he
breaks
does, as Cliff
everywhere.
does.
And Julie gets a little pissed off. I mean, she's not totally pissed yet. She's like, "Dude, I thought you were just gonna like do this with it or threaten him or something little." And he's like, "No, I told you. I'll do whatever I gotta do."
I
He has
yeah,
it very against the Ewing.
I found that a little naive on her part. I'm like, girl, please. Like he's been taught the what listen to his
Yeah.
rhetoric.
Again, she was super upset. She wanted
I
revenge when
know, but
JR
she's like,
treated her
"Oh, I
like a
thought you were just
whore.
gonna threaten him." I'm like
I
watching this
know.
with my popcorn, being like,
I
"Okay,
just feel for Julie because I know, she could have probably. Although you wonder if like JR did marry Julie, would she just be the one that's he's cheating on? Like, I don't know.
well, yeah, these are all things that play out later, aren't they? Like, and go get
Yeah,
further. Like, that's what I love this episode for, a lot of it, because it's just it gives you enough for the story at hand, and then they go, "Hey, let's go back to this a little bit later and blow it up more," and it does. It really blows up.
yeah. So the Ewings have dinner, and they're all having
Yep.
dinner, and JR gets a call, and he goes off. He's like, "We have a spy in the house." Hence the episode title, "Spy in the
Yes.
House." I love when they do that. I always like when they have like somebody in the episode says the episode title in what they're saying. It cracks me up for some reason. I'm just like, "Oh, title, yeah, right." Anyway,
Yeah. Referencing.
that's the title. So obviously everybody's eyeballing Pam. Bobby stands up for her. He's like, "That's my wife. Like, what the fuck? Like, people get, she would never do this. Honestly, if I were Ewing, I'd be like, it's definitely that bitch. Like, they don't know. It's been what, a week? Nobody knows.
Yeah, yeah. I'd probably be a bit similar. I mean, I might be quiet like they all were. So, but I'd be
Right, right.
probably thinking it.
Yeah, and then Lucy just has like this smirk on her face, like it's so funny. I don't know. It's funny.
It is good.
Um, Pam goes to Cliff, talks to him. He doesn't give anything, which is good. I don't ever tell my information. Who tells me stuff? I'm like, oh, I forget. Hopefully none of my
There's
friends
also
listen to that,
something.
but that's what I do.
I think there's. I think there's also something to note too in terms of how Pam and Cliff are at the moment, which is something that does, change.
Yeah.
Um, he says something along the lines of like, "Oh, I can't tell you that," or "You no," or something. "You wouldn't have wanted me to go easy on them," and she's like, "Oh, you're right," and I'm like, it struck me just yeah, I forgot just how young the characters are at the moment, where Pam still has all that sort of ideal sort of imagery on her brother and stuff, where she sees him as this like freedom fighter almost,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
obviously we see the different side of that when he's dealing with Julie, but it's 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 interesting. And even Bobby's just like, "Oh, he can't tell you his source, honey. I mean, I wouldn't if I was him."
yeah,
It's all
yeah.
very understanding at the moment.
Yeah, it is. It's so funny
Yeah.
that way. I
I
mean,
mean,
but
like,
it's true. I mean, it's kind of like a respect for that person in a way. Like they tell you something in confidence, you keep that confidence no matter what.
yeah, no, of
It's good,
course. But
but
I just find it's when the stakes get higher and like, it's just interesting in terms of like, yeah, I'm really keen. Like yeah, to see it all play out with looking at these characterizations as they are, because it has been actually a while since I've done the series, so it's
right,
been
right.
good. Yeah.
Um, they're kind of like, who could it be? And she goes. Well, Pam goes to the office. Oh wait, I'm so sorry. We forgot to mention that. Pam had gotten the file. That's like the most important part. Pam had found the
Yes.
file for Bobby. Bobby had called her, said, "Can you bring it to the office?" Pam goes to the office. Everybody trusts Julie. She ended up giving it to Julie, and I'm sorry, the dinner was the result of that.
Yes.
Um, and then everybody goes off, whatever. Sorry, I lost track.
I mean, it's easy
Um,
to do sometimes. To me.
yeah. So Bobby, like you remember how you pointed out that Bobby's kind of like the go-to guy, the one that tells everybody the bad news, the one that fights the people. Well, he does
Yeah.
go and tell Bill. He tells Bill the bad news of what's going to happen. That's the senator guy. He's like, listen, you're going to have to um, give up your position on the Senate uh, because this is what we're going to do because we got to cover our asses. So, and he's like, damn. Go ahead, you got something?
Oh no, I was just saying. So it was just more that like largely Cliff was using it as a means to like blow open the door. So apparently it's like the idea that there wasn't so much anything illegal about the loan as far in of
Right.
itself, but they have to then, to avoid more questions and stuff like that.
Publicity.
Yeah, he would have to either repay the loan or take himself off the seat. Sorry, yeah, I was going to
Right.
actually mention that, and then I sort of trailed off in my head for a second
It's
there.
fine. Um, so yeah, so everybody believes it can't be Julie. No, it's not Julie. It's not
Mm.
Julie. But Pam throws it out there. She's like, "Well, I think it might be." You know, like, 'cause, I mean, who were the people? You know, who else could have the file?
Well, she
But that's
uses
how.
simple deductive reasoning, I might add,
Right,
and it
right.
actually turns out to be accurate. She's like, okay, so if it wasn't you and it wasn't me, and it's definitely not JR
It's
or
not
Jock,
the
and it's
Jr. Jock.
yeah, it's not Olaf.
Right. She's a
Who else
smart
has got the
girl.
file? You know, who else has touched it?
Right,
Who else
right,
would know?
right. So, so Cliff hears about Arloff resigning. That was when Julie was over. Um, she feels so yeah, so Cliff starts getting weird with her, and he's like, he wants Julie to get more because I guess they did what he didn't want them to do. Like he didn't want
Yeah,
them to like, have something that,
he
like you
didn't
said,
expect
make them.
Olaf to actually
He didn't
quit. He
expect to
didn't
move
expect
on.
Olaf to
Yeah.
quit.
Right. And then of course she's feeling used by him, so she's just like now she's and then she is. I mean, but he did say like this is where you got to be like Julie girl. He did tell you he's using your ass.
But she does make a good point. She's like, you make yourself sound so noble. And it's like Cliff is very charismatic in
He
that way.
is.
He gets very involved and he gets very passionate. And it's like,
He does.
you can definitely see how someone would be, especially after she's just been like hurt for the gazillionth time, probably over the last decade from JR.
Right.
And
I always
I have sympathy for her, but she just, it's a terrible, terrible decisions. You know? Like,
well, that's why we watch these things for terrible
yes,
decisions.
yes.
But that's exactly like how Cliff is. Like I'm always team Cliff because I always want JR to get it. So I'm always like, come on, Cliff, and then like he'll do something stupid and you're like, oh fuck, Cliff, like, don't do it, man.
Yeah, you're
And he
like,
does it
God
every
damn.
time. He
Yeah,
falls for it every time.
yeah. And
Um,
Ken
all
Kercheval,
right,
God, he's great. He's so great in that role. He's fantastic.
Ken Kercheval, yeah, rest in peace.
Yeah, amazing.
He is great. He is great. And I'm glad they got him for the new series too, because it was just great to
Yes.
see him again. And even though he was like more villain than he was before, I mean, I kind of wasn't, but at the same time he was. But we
He
can go
only
into
ever did
that in
maybe
about
like
20
one or
years.
two. He only ever did like maybe one or two things that were kind of not really something I thought Cliff would do. But either way, getting ahead of
Right, right.
ourselves. That's like
Yeah, yeah.
way in the future.
That's in about 25,000 podcasts.
Yeah,
um, so Pam confronts Julie. They have a good little confrontation. She's like, "You lost your self-respect. You don't have anything." Those are off pretty good. So Julie feels
yeah,
bad about herself. Julie goes. JR comes in. She quits. She admits she did it. She tells Pam on the way out and leaves. And that's it for Julie for now.
yeah.
Um, they have a family meeting at the end. Uh, Lucy says a little funny thing. She's like, "We all thought she was guilty," and cracks everybody up. JR apologizes. Lucy insists that they kiss and make up, which was very fun. Because
I
both
love
of them were
Lucy.
just like, uh,
I love the way Lucy shit stares, man. She's great.
she
Could
really
totally
is.
see
She
myself
really is.
doing similar things with all the insane adults in my life. I'd be like, okay.
I also love her and Pam's relationship now. Like, I feel like it's very mother-daughter, and it's really
Yeah,
cute to me. Like, she always busts on Pam, but I know if anybody ever hurts Pam, her ass would be like feeling
yeah,
terrible
yeah.
or whatever. All right, so anything else about that episode? I feel like we got everything, right?
We got everything. It's just like a big, a good establishing episode. It
Yeah.
feeds into the Ewing Barnes feud a little bit more without going into too much of the history, which obviously happens later between the older generation and stuff. Um, it was a good one to show you where Sue Ellen and JR's marriage is at, both between like how JR is as a husband, as well as a good scale between Bobby and Pam and Sue Ellen and JR, because Bobby and Pam are really close and loving and support each other when shit happens, and Sue Ellen gets told that she's buying cheap negligees. So
Right.
I think it's good in that way because it's very good establishing.
Yeah, it seems like Sue Ellen's a little jealous of like Pam and Bobby because they have like fresh
Yeah,
love, and
yeah.
she wants that.
Yeah, and they're still sleeping together and stuff. I honestly don't think Sue Ellen is really not realistic. Like she knows that her and Jay have been married. Like she constantly sort of mentions how long they've been together, but she's more like you just like it's we don't make love anymore. It's like stuff
Right,
like
right,
that.
right.
Like it's that intimacy that she wants.
And we'll get into that in our next episode where this is pretty rough for Sue Ellen, which is why I wore my Sue Ellen t-shirt.
Yes.
Represent.
Yes.
So the next episode is episode 4, Winds of Vengeance. Ooh. Where there's a big storm a coming. It's like Kansas City, and getting ready for the Wicked Witch of the West. So I did look up something. What else did I see? Sue Ellen, Linda Gray. So I saw that. I think it was. I don't know if it was the studios or like the. I don't know who, but somebody realized that Sue Ellen was like kind of standing out in her scenes in season 1. Did you notice she's not in the credits in season 1? So she's not like a main. I
No,
know,
no,
you
she
always think
isn't.
she is. Right. I always feel like she is. Like I see it in my head when I'm watching the Dallas team. Like I just see her there.
No, but you're right.
But
You're
like
right. Yeah.
but they loved her so much that they insisted that they make her a full-time cast member. So that's how I guess she wasn't originated for the role, which I didn't know. An actress named Mary Fran was.
Oh,
Um,
I did not know that.
right. And I'm like, look at her. Like she blew through 12 seasons of Dallas and got back for the reunion movies. I mean, she's a big character. Anyway, let's get on with this episode. I
Oh
always
no,
have
I love
to
Linda
shoot
Gray
these
too. I
stupid
don't mind
facts.
little rants about Linda Gray.
Well, I have Linda Gray's book, so I'm gonna try to read some of it as much as possible, so I can tell a little more facts if I see any in there.
Oh,
But
cool. All right.
so moving on, we got JR and Ray, the two sleazeballs of the show at this point, are
Yeah.
are banging these just two random women in a motel, a random seedy
Good
motel
time,
outside.
gals.
Yeah, yeah, right. Good time. Um, I didn't catch the one guy's name. I have dudes. I don't think I caught either of their names. I put Brian. So
Look, what's
did you?
really terrible, Alan is the younger one, I'm pretty sure. And
Um,
the other one does have a name, but I constantly just was like Brian Dennehy.
Me too. That's what I was
So
gonna say. I have Brian Dennehy.
it's really bad because it completely overrode any of his name drops in the episode. Because I'm like, oh,
And
Brian
what's
Dennehy's just backhanding his cheating wife, you know?
Me too. And it's funny because do you remember him from Dynasty? We're doing Dynasty season 1, me and
Yeah,
Tommy,
yeah,
and he's the lawyer that represents the state against Blake in this, in the last few episodes of the season, and he's friends with
yeah.
Matt
And the
and
Ted
whatever.
Denard trial, yeah.
So I'm like, what did Brian Dennehy like guest star in every season 1 of every soap back then, I guess,
It
before
seems
he
like
made
it.
it bigger. Yeah, it's so funny, but I love him. He always steals the scenes too. He's a scene stealer. So they get home. He backhands his woman, Brian Dennehy. He beats his wife. Bam. Um, he finds JR's card because JR is an idiot. Left his card there, so they know
Yeah.
basically. I guess through the yellow pages they look him up, or they just know who he is and know where he lives. I don't know.
Yeah, they seem
Um,
like, ah, South Fork Ranch. I know their precise location. I'm like, okay.
let me look on my phone. um, so we see that Miss Ellie's sick. She's in bed. Um, she has a conversation with Sue Ellen. She has a migraine, so she has a
Mm,
migraine in bed, whatever. She has a conversation with Sue Ellen. She says we have to make Pam more comfortable. I guess she's loving Pam more because Pam's been pretty decent. I feel like, I mean, Pam's not a mean person.
mm.
She's pretty nice to everybody, even if they're an asshole to her. The storm's coming. Sue Ellen takes charge of everything. That cracked me up too with Lucy, and Lucy gets home from school. She's like, "Yeah, the hurricane. I got sent home from early, whatever." The fam's like, "Why aren't you in school?" Flashback to episode 2. And then Sue Ellen's like, "Do this, do this, do this," like, and Lucy's like, "Oh, look at her, like telling us what to
Who's she to
do."
bust us around?
Yeah, and like Pam's like, "Looks like someone that knows what they're doing, and we're gonna do it." So, I like that. And Lucy's like, "All right."
Yeah,
I love these.
even Bobby says to Pam, she's like, Bobby, I was Texas born and raised too. And he's like, yeah, but you grew up in the city. It's different. Like,
Yeah, I love
I had a
those little
chuckle about that
moments.
too.
I love those little like cute moments that they have, like
Yeah.
um that I feel are important. So like, you know, characters, building
Yeah.
relationships.
It makes them more
Um,
tangible.
Bobby and Jock are stuck at the office. It looks like they're going to try to stay at the office, I guess, because the storm's getting bad. Everybody's, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, uh, when did these guys? Oh, the two guys come to the door. Sue Ellen lets them in like a fool. They're like, "Oh, our car broke down. We need a phone." And they play. They play nice. They're like playing games, whatever. I guess they got to scope out the situation. They find out from Lucy. Was it Lucy? They find out that like everybody has the day off. Like I guess the maid, um, Teresa, and like all the whatever
Yeah, like
the hand.
because also for weather prepping as well, they make it because they're saying like it's a big storm, so people are
Right. So they let everybody stay off, whatever. They go out to where do they go? The barn or something? And then they're like, I guess gathering horses. I don't know what they're doing out there, but they're playing little games out there. Ray injures himself. They drag Ray in. So JR and Ray, everybody's back in the house, and then I guess they have them all in like the living room or family room, whatever room it is. And they hold Brian Dennehy and what's his name? Alan, pull out
yeah
some guns, and they're like, all right, now we're gonna have some fun and whatever. I always like these episodes. I feel like every soap has one of these episodes where everybody's trapped in a house.
yeah
Like
with
Trapped
like
and
a
Preston are all
madman
trapped in a house. What's that?
with some lunatic with a gun, like just or like
Hmm.
a big knife or something. I mean, it's usually a gun in a soapy, but still.
And Dynasty, they were all trapped in a house. I don't want to say who because if Tommy watches this, he didn't get to that season yet.
Ah,
But so so Bobby calls in the meantime. They're like, get the phone. They hold a gun on Pam. Pam says she's gonna play backgammon with JR. That was brilliant. Brilliant. I'm like, because Bobby's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, because you know Pam will never play dick with JR.
yeah. Immediately, like Pam's so clever in this, and the way she's just
She's clever.
calm and just she does so well. I did
I
really enjoy it.
I think she sees the back, especially with what they did to Sue Ellen coming up. Like, I feel like she feels like she has to be strong for Lucy and Miss Ellie. Like, kind of
Yeah,
like she's like, I gotta be, no matter what these people do, like I gotta try to hold it together. That's why she
yeah,
breaks down later, which we'll talk about. But
yeah,
anyway,
yeah, yeah.
so Ray hurts himself to bring him in. They hold the guns. Pam talks to Bobby. So Bobby's like, "We got to get home. We got to get home." Jock's like, "You're crazy. We can't go home." Like he's trying to hold him up. They try to get home. Then there's like traffic, because everybody's trying to get home. I guess shit's blowing around everywhere. Which they did a really good job with the storm. I wonder if they use like
Yeah,
buffer
actually, I thought
footage.
that too. I was like, huh, it looks really good. Like a lot of good sort of like
It does look good.
wide shots of the property as well. I'm like, did they film in an actual storm? Like,
Like you can tell they're voicing over, like Lucy voiced, like they're voicing over like the windy parts. Like they can't, talk in wind with whatever.
yeah,
But I
yeah,
mean, at the same time, you can't really tell anything. It looks real. It looks good.
yeah, it does. I agree.
Um, so so what's his name? I guess what is it? Wanda was Brian Dennehy's wife. She
Oh, Rhonda,
told
yeah, yeah.
she told Brian Dennehy and Alan that she was raped, that they were both raped by Ray and JR, which is
Was that
why.
something that? So I thought. So I realized that happened. I remember watching it, but for some reason, that didn't actually occur between like did that happen between a scene with Brian Dennehy or his wife? Because I only remember him backhanding her. I don't remember an actual conversation because when that popped out, I remember thinking, oh, is that what, like it was just I thought I must have missed the scene or something.
No, no, it's just I guess it's just what they, he was there. So Alan just seemed like a dirty motherfucker. Like he's there to rape
Yeah,
and kill people.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and Brian Dennehy actually wanted justice. He just wanted like I don't know, I don't know if Brian Dennehy would have raped them. I would hope not. Like I mean,
Mm.
for justice sake, like maybe humiliation was as far as he was going to go. You honestly don't know. It didn't seem like he wanted to kill anybody. Like in his scenes, little random scenes. I think he just wanted to really scare the fuck out of them and then
I
leave.
don't know.
That's what
There's
I
some
think his
like
plan was.
uncomfortable singers where he goes, if it didn't, he says something after he finds out, and he's like, no, it's not the same because it's not justice, or something like that. And I'm like,
Right, right.
I don't know. It's all very, you know. delicate with the way it's
Yeah,
worded, but all very imply and also well done in that way. Like, yeah, it's very
right.
weird. And
It
I
is weird.
honestly, yeah, he's obviously a little bit more rational, but I don't know by how much.
So at one part, I guess Brian Dennehy takes Sue Ellen. I guess they question her. They see the Miss America. What is it? Miss America. Miss.
Miss
What is she?
Texas.
Miss Texas. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm like Miss Georgia. Where am I going here? So she's Miss Texas, which makes sense because we're in Dallas. So so he's like, "Do you still have that bathing suit?" She's like, "No," because she knows shit's gonna happen.
Mm.
And he's like, "I know you still have that sash, so we're gonna go find it." And then they walk in the bad weather to their house, JR and Sue Ellen's house, that they don't have in season two. Um, to find the sash, and she comes back in like this trench coat with a bathing suit on. I don't know if it was that one or not. We don't. I don't think we got to see the picture. I can't remember.
No,
And the sash on.
yeah.
And he humiliates her. He makes her like sing a song, and it's terrible. It like seriously makes me tear up every time I watch it because I'm just like, this is terrible.
It's also the okay, so like when you were talking earlier about Linda Gray, as far as like, oh, they wanted to make her like more of like, main character, blah blah blah. This episode, I think, in that scene is a very good sort of just her and Larry Hagman's just chemistry. They're just staring each other. JR won't defend her. He doesn't get up to help her or anything, and she's just like eyes straight on him, and is just like stabbing him to death with eyes as well as being terrified. It's
Well,
I don't know.
to
I
J-
find like
to JR's defense, he did attempt to get up. He did
yeah.
attempt, and they pushed him
I
back down. He
okay. I guess
wanted to
that's
do
true.
something. He wanted to
He
do
did, but
something. This was
I
the
guess he
first time
did.
I
Yeah,
feel like this is the first time I felt like we saw emotion for his wife.
yeah. I
Like
suppose
we
that's true.
actually,
Yeah,
because I was like this is like almost like award-winning performances by them because like I
but
was like he
I,
wanted to do something, but clearly he couldn't. They have guns on them and they could shoot Sue Ellen. Like I feel like
but it was also his fault. It's all his fault.
oh
So like I think
for
that
sure.
yeah,
So
and so
and
like
but
I
that's
just love and you're right. Yeah, I'm just getting into the dynamic. I love the dynamic of the scene. It's fantastic.
right, and that's what I'm saying. Like that's like he showed like every emotion. I feel like he was like concerned. He was like devastated that he put this like made the situation happen. Like you could see everything in his face, like
Yeah, no, that's
bloodshot
true. That's
eyes.
yeah.
Like I just felt him, and I'm just like, this is the first time I remember like it like dissecting these episodes more that we're doing is like
Yeah.
I've really paid more attention to like the acting, like, more than I did before, before I'm just watching it. And the business stuff I'm always like forgetting and like I never remember what business shit they're doing and I don't understand a lot of it, which is why you'll always hear me ask you like, what was this business about? Because I don't know.
I
I try
I
to
at
pay
least
attention.
understand it. Right,
Me
yeah,
and
like, I
Tommy don't
usually
understand
understand it
like
at least
business
from
stuff.
the context of the show. From the context of the show, I usually understand, but I'm like, I don't know if this is,
Right.
like, a legal practice, like,
Right, right.
or
Or
a
like,
real
I don't
one.
know. So this episode, I mean, not a ton happened in it. I mean, you got to see a little bit more like relationships, like Lucy and I think is Lucy buried in Pam or Miss Ellie? I forget.
Miss Ellie for
I think
most of it, I think she, yeah, because Lucy tries to drop Pam into it as
she
well,
does.
like,
Yeah,
she's sort of scared, she doesn't, Lucy's a kid,
sort
she's
of
still,
scared. She's terrified. She's
yeah,
terrified.
and she's just like, "Oh, she used to run with Ray," and he's like, "Oh, well, you're one of us. We don't want one of us." Just
Right.
that sort of yeah, crazy nonsense. It seems like Alan very much wanted to take out whatever little issues he had. He wanted to take it out on like ritzy people, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. We don't really find out too much, I guess, about their backgrounds. Just that he's,
No,
I guess,
no.
a
I mean, yeah,
psychopath in a way, and he must
yeah,
have done something before because he's in his what mid-20s probably.
yeah. Seemingly, it just
Um,
seemed yeah, weirdo.
yeah. So yeah, like you said, what's his name? Brian Dennehy finds out like it, he what is it? Alan confides in Pam. Well, doesn't really confide in her, but tells her like the
Mm.
situation, saying that they said they were raped. But he's like, no, my sister, it was Wanda is his sister. He's like, she's a good time girl, like you said. she's she's out on town, probably trying to get laid, whatever. So
Yeah.
Pam tells Brian Dennehy that, and then he changes his tune, and he's like, "No, this isn't right. Like, we can't do this. Like, it's not cool."
That's after that awful bit though, where he's literally got Sue Ellen on her knees, and the gun is in the frame, like again, like it's not pressed against her, but like the camera
Right,
focuses up on her, and you've just got the gun like right there on the side of the frame, and she's like, and he rips the sash off her. I was like, holy shit, like,
right,
and
right.
then she's just like, are you gonna let him take his justice out on this innocent woman when Rhonda
Yeah,
like lied? It's
it was
awful.
good. Yeah,
It was good, but yeah, it's awful. Poor Sue
good
Ellen.
episode. But that's probably the episode that they like network saw as to like Linda Gray being like, "This is the
Yeah,
woman that needs to
definitely,
stay."
absolutely.
Yeah, like
Even
we
the
need to keep
uncomfortable way
her.
she slowly takes off the jacket, like
Oh my
she doesn't
God.
even drop it until like the last sort of few lines of her song. It's awful.
Right. Yeah. Um. So where are we at? I think we're almost done this episode, right? Uh, oh, so what? Bobby and Jock come through the back. Do they realize something was going on? I forget how they came through the
Yeah,
back.
so
I guess
like
they knew.
it's sort of like Pam ends up, I think it's through that like what Pam was doing, like when she spoke to him last, and like she was able to sort of tip him off. And so like while this is all
Right.
sort of going on, Bobby sort of and Jock start mounting like a way to approach the property, because there's people there, sort of thing. Um and so they're sort of mounting a way to sort of get in there, but it all kind of fizzles out just sort of as they arrive, more or less. Like it's sort of
Yeah. So
um
it's kind of ended. But Alan is didn't he grabbed somebody or Pam? I think wasn't he
he
grabbing
grabs
somebody because he was
Lucy.
walking. He grabs Lucy. He was walking into the other room, and Jock pops him. Right.
Yeah.
I think Jock comes in, pops him. Um, Bobby comes and pops Brian Dennehy several times because Brian Dennehy's a big dude. You gotta knock it, and Bobby knew. He's like, bam, bam, like he
Yeah,
didn't
he
get
had him
it
on the
because he,
ground, like straight up.
yeah, because he was on the ground after the first, but he knew he had to knock him out again.
Yeah.
Brian Dennehy would have gotten up and smushed the shit out of him. um, but anyway, and I guess that's pretty much how it ends,
Well,
right?
they're like, okay, let's call the cops, and Miss Ellie. I
Oh
just,
yeah.
I kind of laughed at that line, just the way. I'm sorry, it's just the way it was delivered. She's like, "No, Jock, we have to let him go," and I was like, "What? Why?" And then she's like, "No, we can't involve the law." And like, I still, and she goes like, "Oh well, like, I'll explain it," and they go off camera, and she doesn't explain that. Like,
um,
what
I
was it?
believe it's because of JR. It's
It is
because
because of
JR
JR. That's the
cheated.
only thing I could think of, but I can't remember. I couldn't
Yeah.
remember. Like I said, I was like sitting there. I felt like I missed parts of it, but like it's like
No,
with
it
the
was
Ronda
it
bit.
was it was because of JR, because JR cheated and basically shamed the family. So if he gets arrested, and it would have just been a shit show.
So it's a
Although
typical, yeah, yeah,
although JR was probably paying off that sheriff anyway, which we don't know yet, but down the line we find out some things.
yeah, yeah.
Um
That's fair enough. Sorry, you're right. I just
yeah,
just thought I
I
was like,
mean,
am I missing something? Because I felt like I was missing a gap on that one, like with the
right.
Ronda bit and just with that bit. I was like, and yeah. So there we go.
That's what I got from it anyway. I mean, I don't know why else you wouldn't, report it. Because that one Alan needed to be shot because like he's going to do
He's
it to
clearly got
somebody.
like something wrong with him.
He's going to rape and kill somebody, and it's going to be Miss Ellie's
Yeah,
fucking fault.
yeah,
Hence why I say she's not the greatest mother.
yeah, yeah.
Um, oh, and then there's the awkward moment between JR and Sue Ellen at the end, and that's basically how it ends, I think.
He goes to help her
Um,
and put the coat around her, and she snatches it off him and just stares
she
him down.
snatches it. Yep, and that's it. And then we're on to episode 5, the season finale. Um, Barbecue #1. It's not called Barbecue 1, but it is the first of many to come. And it's
Yes,
episode 5.
what would become a
Start.
very fun tradition in Dallas of barbecues.
Yeah, it is fun. I especially like the people setting up that everybody knows. One of them's named Sam, and the lady I didn't catch her name, but they're all going to them and like confiding in them, and then they're like talking about the family later. But
Yeah,
we'll get
yeah,
to
yeah.
that. We start out with Bobby in his shorty shorts. I'm like, damn, he looks fine. He is
Doing
a
his big
sexy
jogger
man.
on the property,
That Patrick Duffy.
showing off them
Um,
chesticles.
Oh well, yeah, he showed them off later. I'm like that. It was the shorty shorts in the beginning, and then later on when he was in his tail, I'm like, they're showing.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. It all merges together at some point for me.
You're like, I've practically seen him naked in this episode. Um, so Jock, I think in the beginning of the episode, Jock finds out Digger, also known as Willard, I guess that's his first name, is coming to the barbecue, and Jock's not happy. He's like, nope. Um, Pam Digger, the next scene, we see Pam Digger, Cliff, and Jimmy, who you mentioned earlier. And clearly, he didn't stand out in my mind. I've seen this episode about 5 times and did not remember him. Did not remember. You're like, Pam has a cousin. I'm like, I do not remember a cousin at all.
I'm like,
Here he
yeah, he's
is.
recast like pretty much every appearance, but like,
Is he in it more?
yeah.
He's in
So
it more?
he's in a little bit of season 2. He's like he's like a tiny love interest for Lucy.
Wow. I didn't even remember that story. How crazy is that? But my memory sucks. I watched 5,000 soaps. Clearly, I'm working with proven soaps. So it's what I do. Um, so anyway, they're all talking. I think Digger goes into says that Jock stole his money. Jock stole his sweetheart, who was Miss Ellie. Um, he said that he was the nose, so he would sniff out where the oil was. Like he had a good like I guess nose for that, eye for that, whatever,
Yeah,
however it worked. I don't know. And Jock was the money guy, I guess, like the guy that we dig for it, we get the money, we split it supposedly.
yeah. He had the money to basically dig the ground, essentially.
Yeah. Um. So we get to the oh Pam and all come. Lucy asks about Jimmy to Pam. Pam finds out she's pregnant. That's when Bobby was in his tail. Side note. Um. Then
I
I
think
put
too.
barbecue time.
I think it's
Hmm?
important to like note too for Pam and Bobby and the build up to it. There's they sort of want to use the barbecue as a way to kind of bridge the families together to try and get Digger and Jock at least talking. And
Right.
then of course she finds out she's pregnant and they're ecstatic, and obviously they're gonna announce that because they're attempting to sort of bring the family closer again. So there's all this
And
excitement running into the barbecue
I'm
and big
guess
announcements.
I'm I'm guessing back then, 5 minutes of being pregnant, they like to announce because, it's supposedly like here we say it's like bad luck until you're like 3 months pregnant to like kind of
We're
be
about the same.
safety
We're
zone.
about the same.
Okay.
I honestly think it was just probably the situation. Like, if maybe it was back then. They're like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, but like, I also think too, it sort of just played into the family dynamics there because like they are attempting to sort of bridge their families. Out of what the feud would have been going for how many years then? At least 30 or 40 by that point.
Yeah. And let me
So
just say, they love killing babies off before they're even born in every soap.
they do, they do.
Like I feel like Dynasty it happened, Falcon Crest it happened, like every primetime soap kills a baby like before it's even like this big.
Yeah, no,
It's like,
I
oh,
think
she's
it's really
pregnant.
like,
Psych.
yeah, they do that a
Yeah,
lot. And even in Melrose Place, it happened.
yeah. You can't have babies on Melrose Place.
I just thought it was kind of a wild idea that anybody was trying to have a baby on Melrose Place. Like, like I
Yeah,
love
right.
that show, but that was wild. But anyway,
Yeah, that was all right. So where are we? So we're at the barbecue time. Bobby's
yeah,
telling everybody Pam's pregnant already. Goes right
proud
out. He's
papa.
like, "Oh, hey, Pam's pregnant. Pam's pregnant." Like he's all excited. Like you said, everybody's excited. Lucy tells Ray just like in front of his girlfriend or woman of the day, I guess we'll say, because that's what Ray seems to have in the
Lucy
first
just
season.
shit staring,
Yeah, of course. She knew it would get him.
just like
We
when she
see the
tells Sue
barbecue.
Ellen.
Yeah, we see the barbecue people talking about the Ewings. Jock is getting loaded. He's drinking. JR's drinking. Everybody's drinking like heavily at this place. So we must remember this for the finale.
Yes.
Um, Miss Ellie tells a story to Digger. Well, it doesn't tell a story, but basically explains to Digger, which is funny that they're talking about this like all these years later. Like you figure they would have hatched it out, but maybe as we know in soaps, nobody communicates well.
No.
so, so maybe nobody worked out their issues back then, which is why we have these issues today.
Yeah. Well, like I think it's like she sort of she hasn't they when they I actually like it when Digger walks up and Miss Ellie sees him and you do see this like glimmer of what they once were. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like
right.
the way he looks at her and the way she smiles
Hmm.
over at him, it's like obviously he's still in love with her, but
Oh,
and
for
she's
sure.
just got yeah, she's got that smile of like, oh, I haven't like it really does go I so much history in her face. You know what I mean? Like
Right, right, right. So we're getting
you,
into that conversation, and I'm like,
mm,
so they're talking, and like she's like, "Oh, I cared for you, Digger," or even like care for you, like not cared for you, but I had
mm.
to marry Jock because it saved her land. So we're basically saying that she was in love with Digger and she married Jock to save her land. That's what I got from it. So,
She also admits to loving Jock though. Like she's just
well, yeah,
she
she says she does now, but she didn't love him when she got with him. That's what I got
no
from it. Like she did not, she probably cared about him, but loved Digger. But Digger, you'll see in the TV movie more
well,
what he
this is
goes
what I
through.
mean. So, like, this is where I was going to say, I was going to mention, this is one of those points that I'm not necessarily like in disagreement with or anything, but and I haven't, despite owning the DVD for X amount of years, I still haven't watched the prequel movie, and it was mainly just because and I'll do it this time though, just because as well because it's been raised up and everything, but I liked the ambiguity between what actually happened in that love triangle, because I don't
Right.
see Digger, Jock, or Miss Ellie as kind of bad. I see like three people who are in a love triangle and all of it got mixed
Yeah.
up. You know what I mean?
Well, with
And
I was thinking when I was watching this, I'm like, I feel like since this stuff is happening, I almost feel like we should watch the TV movie, even though it didn't come on until like 84, 85. I feel like we should watch it like as our next podcast because before
okay,
season 2 even. Just because
okay.
it really focuses on them. And I feel like it's kind of important to what we're seeing now, like to
Does it
understand.
reflect well within this sort of stuff? Because this is what I mean. For me,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm still looking at it as a viewer who hasn't is looking at it from their perspective. So they're romanticizing the romantic notions in
Romanticizing.
their head of how it used to be,
Right.
rather than how they ended up depicting it in the movie.
Right. That's why I think we'll go into that. I think we'll do that. But
Okay,
we'll get this. Let's hold on. Where were we? Yeah, not
we're
much
on
happens.
Digger and Miss Ellie.
Yeah, not a ton happens in this episode. Just that you really get to see like the Maselli and Digger stuff. Who reveals that they get the what's it called? Jock and Digger get together.
Mm,
They already start fighting. Then they decide to tell them that they're pregnant. Bobby and Pam, and then they're
mm.
like, okay, let's shake on it. They shake, and then Jock's like, let's go to the bar. So I guess that's how they celebrate. They just have a drink, and
Yeah,
Digger's been clean for a minute. He's like, I'm been clean. So he's like, you can have a soda pop or whatever. Or he said
yeah.
soda. I forget what he said. Um, and then they fight immediately, pretty much. Um,
Over how they're gonna spoil the kid or not spoil the kid. I will point out though, I love that remark
Jock,
that Jock makes about Bobby. He's like, I spoiled Bobby rotten, and he turned out to be the best, the one of the best, like the best of the lot. And
the
I just had
best
a
of the
laugh
lot.
because I was like,
I
I'm
know.
like, Bobby's always been the goddamn favorite. You can totally see it. I
I
also
know.
love too that this scene also in the spite or the bitterness between them, they are two men who also had a great chemistry on screen as well. I love the way Jim Davies delivers some of his lines, especially in this
Hmm.
episode between the harshness with Digger to say just towards the end where he is with Pam. But like it just and we'll get to that and all that. But it
Yeah.
just I think there was a lot of good acting in this where you sort of yeah, we see this little confrontation, this like mini confrontation, and especially mini when you
Yeah,
think about how big it all gets. But yeah,
yeah. Well, then Digger decides to drink. He's just, like right after that fight, he's just like, "Give me whatever scotch or whatever is around, bourbon,
all
whatever."
of it.
So
We'll just scotches.
the next scene, it comes back from commercial break back then, and then
Yeah,
he's dancing and throwing his own party, and everybody's watching him like, "Ah, this guy's a great time." Yeah, Digger drunk.
Pam sort of pushes through the crowd and then realizes that her dad's the spectacle at the moment, and it's like,
Yeah,
but yeah,
and she's just like, "Damn it, it's been 5 minutes." He's only been sober for 5 minutes. It was a nice 5 minutes, but he tried. He tried.
at this point too,
Um,
Sue Ellen has also heard that
mm,
Bobby and Pam are pregnant. She's also decided to have a bit of a drink,
oh,
and great establisher for, as we all know, famously know, Sue Ellen
uh-huh,
should stay away from the bottle. And she
right.
goes and confronts JR, and they have their little spite, like back and forth there, where he sort of
I was
hushes her up a little bit because she starts yelling about obviously Pam and Bobby being conceiving the first grandchild, who may even be a boy, and stuff
and
like that. And
that's
so
what
that
Doc
sort of
wants.
sets, yeah, and
Doc
that sort
wants
of
the boy.
sets them on their little drunken path for the rest of the episode as well.
I felt so bad for Sue Ellen as she's sitting there drinking. She's talking to these like 10 old ladies, and she's just telling like just being sad and pathetic, and I'm just like, these ladies are like, did you look at the ladies' faces? They're like, and
I've
one's like,
seriously gained a pound since I've missed Texas. You know, like I'm like, oh, honey.
it was so sad. But
I know.
anyway,
I felt terrible.
she drinks until it's not sad anymore, and then the next scene she's in, she's riding a horse around. So you're like, okay, she got in a better place 20 drinks in. So as I
Yeah,
said, everybody's drinking at this point.
yeah.
Maybe Pam's the only one that didn't, and even then, she might have had wine back then. They probably drank with. I think you'd have like one glass of wine. Lucy's talking to Jimmy. Jimmy's like playing hard to get. So there's really not too much with them. That was all I really got with that, because I guess he wanted to make her. And remember, like Pam said, like to make yourself interesting, just act stupid, whatever. And he does, and
Yeah,
whatever he
she's like, you don't like
succeeds.
boys, do you? He's like, of course I like boys. And she's like, but in that way. In what way? He's just, I actually enjoyed that just because of how stupid it is.
Yeah,
Like, it's just dumb. And yeah, and she,
it
Lucy,
was. Yeah. Um. So what else? Oh, JR comes over to Digger. He pours him another drink, and he's just getting his load on. JR's like loaded. Everybody's loaded. Oh, wait, where are we? Digger drinks. Do. Oh, so in the meantime, so Pam goes to find Jimmy because they're getting ready to go because Digger's loaded.
yeah.
She climbs in the barn. Why? We never seen her do this before. I didn't really understand. I get it to get Jimmy and Lucy down. They were like messing around in there, whatever. So they climb down. She stays up there and just watches for no fun reason. To get
Oh
air,
no,
she
she
says.
says that she needed to catch her breath. I think it was just to take a step away from the party because her dad's being a drunk
Yeah,
spectacle. You know, yeah, like
yeah.
there's been a confrontation with the families essentially. It's just a bit tense. I actually
And
could, I sort of felt like I would probably do something similar. I'd be like, oh my God, I'm just gonna, I probably would have taken wine with me, but I also wouldn't have been pregnant. But and I just would have sat
well,
there and I would have just listened to my music and waited for them to all leave.
I mean, how about you just go in the house or your
Well, you could
house,
do that.
wherever
Yeah, it's a big
your
house, I
side house.
suppose. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she has to go in the house while she can because it's not around next year.
No, that's true. This is a good point.
So Bobby and JR run into each other, I guess, like, 'cause Sue Ellen's riding her horse and they're like
Mm.
helping Sue Ellen out. And JR starts talking shit about Pam. He's like, she's trash, trash, trash. And he's just loaded. Bobby punches him and he lays
Well, he
on the ground.
basically
He's like,
calls her
trash.
a slut.
Yeah. He's upset. He found out, or Sue Ellen went and told him about the pregnancy, whatever.
Yeah.
And so JR wanders into the barn. He didn't know Pam was there. He looks up, he saw Pam there. He climbs up.
Yeah.
Pam's like, we're moving out, like whatever, we're getting away from you people. He's like, we can work something out, like whatever. And I don't understand why she was moving away from him. He's clearly drunk and he was not really in a threatening position, I feel like, in this point. He was very loaded.
Oh
Too
no,
loaded to
it's
even
just she's
threaten.
just pulled away from him. She's doing that thing where she's stepping back and he's doing that drunk thing where they kind of follow you over, and
Right,
then she's
right.
just reached away and obviously I mean, I don't know how she fell so yeah, I mean it's yeah. But like
Yeah.
yeah, it's just an accident. And like even JR
So
drunk
yeah,
looks over the way they pan on him and he's like, oh, because she's like flat on her
yeah.
stomach.
So yeah, she falls flat and boop, baby dead. That was quick. 20 minutes of being pregnant.
Of
Um, she's
happiness.
fine. Baby died. Yeah, right. Bobby like says like we're gonna move out. Jock goes and talks to Pam. He's like, listen, I don't want to lose another son, referring to Gary being gone.
I
And
like that thing. You feel the weight
I
in Jim
liked it
Davies'
too.
voice.
hmm I like that too. And then Pam's like, and then Bobby's like, do you want to stay? And she's like, yeah, whatever. It was an
And
accident.
he asks her, like, was it an accident? And she goes, it was, like,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
Sue Ellen questions JR and she's like, are you, was it, I forget what the first question was, but then she's
Oh, it
like,
was, did you push her? And he just sort of like looks up at her and
he's
he's
like,
like, I did not.
no.
And
Yeah.
then he asks, are you sorry she
Are
lost the
you,
baby?
you're sorry she
Yeah,
lost the baby. He doesn't answer, but he looks, whatever.
yeah.
And then that's it. The end, season
The end of
finale.
season one.
And it wasn't too cliffhangery because, they thought it was like a wrapped up miniseries back then. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
they renewed it for season two, thank goodness. And we have
Well, to
tons
be
of
fair, I
Dallas.
mean, Dallas is the one that ended up kind of like working the cliffhanger perfectly and just perfecting it, in my opinion. Like, from
Yeah,
like
doing a
they
good
realized
job.
they were like, oh, this is a good way to hook, and just smashed it every year, just about. Like, I think maybe there was only maybe like 3 times in that whole series where I thought the cliffhangers were a little bit, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
Every
excited
other time I was like,
to I'm excited to get to the other stuff and talk about like you know how me and you always go off about like random things in the series. Like in the past we've talked about it, like how I'm upset with the writing. It's very male dominated. Like they write the women very shitty a lot of times. But we'll get to talk about all that as we
the way they
discuss the
fawn, yeah,
next
they just sort of
season.
fall into the arms of JR and stuff because he's just obviously so magnanimous, like so enigmatic.
So yeah, so we'll definitely probably do the prequel movie
Yep.
next. So then
Well,
we
that would
can
be cool
see
because like I
how
haven't seen it. I haven't seen
we
it.
can
Yeah, I always
we can
plan to
see
watch it
the
like on a run through. I go, oh, I'd do it first or something, but I just never have.
yeah. So it's the story of Jock Digger and Miss Ellie and how they all met up and what the dynamic was back then, and then we'll
Yep.
start season two.
All right.
Um,
That sounds good.
but that's a wrap for tonight. Thanks for
Yep.
joining us with Dallas season one, and we'll get back to you with season two and the TV movie next time. Um, Find us on all the socials and have a good night, everyone, wherever you're listening. Listen to we can hear us anywhere, apparently. So do that. And good night.
Night.